Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Deep Waves Transformation. Today's guest has walked through the darkness and come out on the other side, not only free, but full of purpose. Jacki Fleniken is a sobriety coach who knows firsthand what it means to lose yourself and to find your way back. At 54, she was battling depression and using alcohol to cope daily. But one day, everything changed. Guided by a science based methodology, Jacki broke free from the chains of addiction and stepped into a life of freedom, vitality, and deep inner peace. Her transformation was so profound that she felt called to help others do the same. Now, as a coach, she guides those ready to break free from alcohol and reclaim the life they deserve, a life filled with hope, joy, and love. Jacki says it best: years ago, the thought of a day without alcohol was unimaginable. Now, the thought of a day with it is inconceivable. She is most qualified to help the person she used to be, and her story is a living proof that freedom is possible. Jacki, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, but I want to thank you for having me on the show today very much.
Oh, absolutely, sweetheart. It's a blessing.
Thank you.
So, Jacki, your transformation is so powerful. Can you take us back to the moment when you realized something needed to change?
Well, there wasn't just one moment, there were several moments, but I mean, I'll tell
Okay.
you a couple of them. And it was probably the summer of 2022. A friend of ours had passed away who had passed away from alcoholism. And not only
Okay.
did he pass away, but like about 6 weeks later, they went into the apartment of his best friend because they hadn't heard from him. And they found him dead amongst a ton of empty bottles of wine and vodka and beer bottles and just alcohol just taken over Mark's life as well. So both of these gentlemen had died as a result of their addiction to alcohol. And at the celebration of life for the first one, his name was Brad. We were sitting there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the bar was open. We all had alcohol at our tables. I had to drink. I drank beer because I was hungover and I needed it. And so I drank a couple beers. And as we went through this celebration of life for this gentleman, almost 90%, 95% of what was talked about was how stupid he was and all the silly things he did when he was drunk. And this was a
Sure.
70-year-old man who had done a lot of different volunteer work during his lifetime. And the focus was on the alcohol. And I remember sitting there and I thought, oh my gosh, is this going to be me? Is this really the legacy I want to leave? And so I tried to find I tried to find something to help me. And the first thing I did was I called my girlfriend who I knew had quit. And I sat on my front porch and I was crying and I just said, hey, left her a message. What did you do? How did you do it? I need to cut back. I was on the intention of just getting back to drinking like 2 or 3 beers a day, not the 12 I was averaging. So I left her a message. She called me back, voicemail. I left her another message. She never called me. We never talked. And that's okay. It because she wasn't there. It wasn't her calling to help me through that moment. So then I kept searching and I tried like this app I put on my phone and it didn't work. So it
Uh-huh.
just all these things just kept aligning and I just kept thinking there's got to be a better way. And because I started getting scared, because I thought, what's going to happen to me if I don't break free? If I don't, like, I started drinking earlier and earlier in the day. I would drink at noon or 1 because I was so hungover from the night before. I wanted to get rid of the hangover feeling. I got scared. And so I did. Those were a lot of the things that made me realize, will I be alive to see my future grandkids? Because none of my children have had kids yet. And so I just really wanted to find a way to get me back because I was handcuffed to alcohol to the point of
Sure.
I knew exactly how many beers I had in my beer fridge. And if I didn't have enough, I'd think in my mind, okay, which beer distributor did I go to last? And I'd rotate where I bought it because I never wanted them to realize how much beer I was drinking. I would buy a 30
Wow.
pack at a time. And a 30 pack, if you're drinking 12 a day, do the math. It,
Yeah.
right, 2.5 days. So I got super, super smart and I thought, I'll just buy 2 30 packs at a time.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
all these things, and I was aware, I knew, like I would pull all my beer taps off and stick them on this in my above my kitchen sink. I have a shelf, and I would put them on there so I would add up. I'd know where I was, and I'd get to like beer number 10, and I'd be like, okay, I need to stop. And then that little voice over here would say, oh, well, one more's not going to hurt. Just have one
Yeah.
more to be fine. And that cycle happened every day, every day, every day. And I started having, my heart started racing a lot. I would drink, and then I would drink a lot of water before I go to bed. But there was a lot of times, Tasha, I would go to bed and I would think, thank God I have a life insurance policy for my kids because I don't know if I'll wake up in the morning. But I didn't know how to break free.
It's unfortunate, and I can really sympathize with you on that as well because I lost my dad in 2019 due to alcoholism, along with my mom, just 11 months apart. So lung cancer, alcoholism. I mean, they both struggled with alcoholism. So, but to lose them within the 11 months was just, it was very overwhelming. And during that time of their addiction, I felt like I was getting sucked into the addiction because they were so reliable and so needy upon me. It just became, I mean, it was terrible. It tore everything apart. They got in the way of my schooling, my marriage, my family life. I mean, it was so painful just to watch them die. And speaking as a child, it was just so painful just to slowly watch them day by day, just dying inside. And then, like the story, your story in the beginning, that's exactly how my dad was found. The roommate found him completely naked on the bed, bottles surrounding him, which in my mind, I'm thinking he must have just gotten out of the shower and kind of passed out and just kind of passed out on the bed. And that's why they found him naked. But same story.
Right.
That's crazy.
Oh, I'm so
So
sorry.
yeah, it was really hard to get through. It was really hard.
Yeah. Addiction to alcohol, a lot of people, like I felt that it was shame because I should be able to be better. Because Tasha, one of the things in my previous career, I was a bartender for 12 years. And I
Oh,
watched it. I watched how people would come in and their dependency on alcohol, but I served it because I didn't truly understand the addictive nature of it and really the intensity of our brain was so control my brain and the brains of others who are addicted to alcohol. It's so controlled by our subconscious mind because of the habits and patterns that we have created for our brain and the addictive nature of alcohol. So I'm so sorry you had to go through that because that's just horrific. And that's thank goodness I was able to break free. So my children and my future grandchildren will not have to endure what you have or others have whose parents or loved ones have been addicted to alcohol because it's such a sneaky addiction. And it's not the person's fault. And that's what I think a lot of times people think is, well, it's genetic or it's hereditary, and all these things are not true. It's the addictive nature of the alcohol that causes it. So I remember at one point my father was a heavy drinker, but more so when he retired. But his alcohol choice was Jack Daniels. And I watched my father as he gradually increased his intake of alcohol because the body adjusted to it. So back in the day, he would probably drink 2 drinks and maybe have, 3 ounces a day. And at his peak, before he ended up with Alzheimer's and ended up in a home, he was drinking about 15 ounces of Jack Daniels a day.
my God.
So it's like, but because that's what our body does. The body gets so
Immune.
immune to it, and you have to drink more to get that same feeling. And I was going through all of that. And I remember thinking, well, this is what happened to my dad. So I guess this is just the way I am because I'm just like my dad. It's hereditary. This is what I do. And so I've learned that that's not it. It's just the way that I programmed my brain and my body to think it needed it. Because the brain actually doesn't recognize that alcohol is bad for you. It just knows that when you drink it, you get this fake dopamine hit. So because you think you have this, oh, yay, I'm grabbing this, it goes, oh, there it goes. This is what you're doing. And the cool thing when I did finally jump off the alcohol train based upon the science-based methodology that I studied, I still used the same koozie. I just put an NA beer in it. So I started with Heineken Zero. And I drank 7 Heineken Zeros my first day alcohol free. But my
Wow.
brain, it was okay because it was like I prepared myself. There's a lot that I did to prepare myself to get to that point. But because my brain knew at 5 o'clock or sometimes earlier, I'd start to drink, I was able to satisfy my brain without knowing that the alcohol actually wasn't in that bottle of beer.
Right. So you played kind of like the placebo effect with yourself a little bit?
Yeah, because I didn't want to go from this daily routine. And like I said, I did a lot of work up until I made that decision on the day to jump off the train because I thought I'm just going to try this. I'm going to try and see what happens with the intention of, I never intended to say, oh my gosh, I'm 2 years alcohol free. I just hit my 2 year mark on June 9th. I don't count days anymore. I did it for like the first couple months because it was like, whoa, I put a little purple or a little pink heart on every day that I didn't drink because I was like, wow, I probably the last time I didn't have alcohol was the day that I had my wisdom teeth out in 2016. I've drank every day for years. So it was amazing to see that just by changing that one little thing as I prepared myself for that to do the placebo effect. And
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing how it worked. And but there was a lot of rewiring of the brain first to be able to do that. I don't suggest people to do that if you do have a heavy addiction because there is the possibility of withdrawals. But I
Absolutely.
had cut it back already. I mean, if I was averaging 12 the day before I jumped off the train, and this might be a lot to sound like a lot to some people, but I had 7 beers. That was huge. That was like a 45% decrease in what I was typically drinking over that time of before I went decided to jump off the alcohol train.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So then you follow a science-based methodology to get sober. Can you share what that looked like and how it supported your healing?
Yeah. So when you start to really learn about the way your brain actually works and the way that alcohol fits into that equation of the habits that we form. And I can work with people not just around the addiction of alcohol, but this will work. I'd use the same methodology to quit smoking cigarettes as well. I didn't quit them both at the same time because I wasn't going to put my body into shock. I wanted,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I picked the worst of the two evils, which was the alcohol first. So
Sure.
as you start thinking about the way you feel around it, so there's a lot of emotion based into what I did and what I teach my clients as well, but also really the science of understanding really what alcohol is and what it does to our body and how it totally controls our brain with the way that we created a habit with it, if that makes sense. So as I broke through, the more knowledge I got, the more I started to understand what I was doing to my body. And then I was able to go, okay, wait a minute. This isn't, why am I doing this to myself? But at the same time, the addiction was so strong because of the addictive nature of alcohol but as I continued to learn, because you can't unlearn what you've learned. So as I made that decision to take a break, I did it because I felt I had enough knowledge, enough information, and enough faith and belief in myself that I could take this leap and see where it goes. And yeah, the first couple weeks were rough because I mean,
Yeah.
just like this is a whole habit change. I completely remodeled my kitchen. I painted all the cabinets on my cabinet doors. The walls in my kitchen. I kept myself busy because I needed it. So I kind of pulled away from this is a little bit away from the science based methodology of it, but this was me trying to figure out what am I going to do with my time besides because I used to drink for hours and just
Sure.
and so then I painted and you guys are in my kitchen because this is where all my healing happened. This is where I would sit to do my studying and understanding of what it was that I was doing to my body and how can I fix what I had created. And this is where I did a lot of dancing too. I have an empowering music.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's,
I love that.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, because it's not a flip of a switch. It's not just like, oh, boom, I'm going to quit drinking or I'm going to take a break. There is a lot of work to it. And there's a lot to learn and
Right.
understand behind it. And that's why, this has been a 2.5 year journey for me, but it really took me about 2 to 3 months before I made the decision to take a break from alcohol and to see where it goes from there. And it's been amazing.
Okay.
It's been amazing. And I just have I've pulled the weeds that have come up, or, I just make sure my garden is full of beautiful things, not the weed and the rocks and the stones that are not going to help me grow.
Yeah. I love that. Good. You're replacing a toxic habit with beautiful positive habits now. So then how do you help clients move from shame and secrecy to empowerment and freedom?
The biggest thing is I tell them my story. I let them know I understand because I've walked in your shoes and I remember being that woman sitting on my front porch crying, thinking, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to change? Am I going to be alive?
Right.
To see my future grandkids. So I help them really also understand why they do the things they do. Like, I'll give a quick example. I have a client who has gone to rehab twice and unfortunately has not worked because unfortunately hey, rehab works for 4% of the people that go. And those are statistics that are proven that we can find on the internet anywhere. And also, AA is another great avenue, but unfortunately, only about 10% of people who go to AA find sobriety. So we focus a lot. I focus on with them, a lot of their emotions and their thinking and why did they do what they did, not shame them for the behavior that they had, because of course they did, because your brain is so wired to do the things that you want to do. So one of my clients, I'd only been working with her for a few weeks, but she had a moment of, they like to call it relapse. We call it data points. She drank and she did for 2 days. And so I sat with her and I said, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to shame you because of course you did, because you used that for so many different years. We used it for different things. So I walked her through why, what were you thinking when you went to the liquor store to buy tequila? What were you thinking when you went to the liquor store to buy wine? And so we went through all these different things and we were able to pinpoint based upon some time with her. She gave herself permission to drink because it was the one she could control that. Because see, there's other parts of her life she feels like she's a little bit out of control. So she was
Right.
able to feel like, okay, she's like, so yeah, I wanted to be in control today. I want to go drink. I want to do this. She wanted to feel like a badass. And so I said, okay, so
Yeah.
you drank, but tell me everything you felt. Tell me everything that happened. So we go through everything. We talk about the emotion she felt. And then we talk about how the way she felt shamed. Like I woke up and she's like, why did I do this? And I said, so, but you told me you did it because you wanted to feel like you were in control. And she said, yeah. And I said, but were you really in control? And she sat there for a minute, Tasha, and she went, hmm. And she looked at me and she said, no, I gave the control to alcohol. I said, exactly.
Yep.
So those are the things I try to help people understand, that it's not their fault. It's just we've been programmed to use it in different ways. And then I break through with them and we work on, how do you feel when you don't drink? Let's talk about these things. And so we really focus on the feelings. And then I do a lot with them on, what is it that you really want? And how is it you would really want your life to look? What is the relationship you want with alcohol? And I will help you build that. But you have to do the work. I'll show you and I'll guide you how to get there, because all of us have the answers inside. I don't tell people what to do. I can't. We don't want to. We were bossed around by our
Exactly.
kids, right? I mean, by our kids, by our parents.
Yeah.
You have to do this. You have to do this. No, because really, she or he or whoever it is I work with, you tell me what you want and we'll create the groundwork and we'll run with that and we'll go, and you keep building it. And we're going to come into obstacles on the way. It happens, or we'll take a little detour. It's okay, because then we learn from it.
Sure.
So,
I literally just had this conversation with my best friend, my childhood best friend from sixth grade the other day. He called me frantic and I picked up the phone and he goes, Tasha, I don't want you to be mad at me, but I fucked up.
mhm,
And I said, okay, I already know what you're going to say. And I'm not an alcoholic recovery coach by all means, but I've lived it and I've experienced it since birth. So I feel like I can offer
mhm,
some kind of guidance in that way. And so when he called me, I told him the exact same thing. It's not your fault. It's okay.
mhm,
And then he would be like, "Well, if it wasn't for so and so who introduced me to alcohol, this would have never happened." And so he wanted to put the blame on somebody else
right,
and yada yada yada. And I literally had to talk him off the ledge. And but I always give him homework assignments at the end of our phone calls, what to do.
right.
And the way you just explained it was this exact same way that I had explained it to him. So well done. We're doing good.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
So did your relationships shift once you began your healing journey, and how did you navigate those changes?
Yeah, they
Let's talk about
they've
relationships.
definitely shifted, and it's okay, because you look at my journey with not drinking anymore and changing my life completely, that some of the people I don't necessarily enjoy being around as much anymore because they're still heavy drinkers. And I think sometimes they might not want to be around me. I mean, I'm fun. I'm sorry. I've always been fun no matter what. I'm a pretty outgoing
Right.
person. So I do recognize
Yeah.
that there's sometimes that I don't get the invites like I used to go do things. But at the same time, if they're still heavy drinking, they look at me and think one of two things. One, we don't want to tempt her to drink, or I'm a what's the word? I lost my train of thought. It would be more like it's a mirror to them going, they don't want to look at maybe they have a problem and don't want to address it. So does that make
Oh,
sense?
I love that.
Because that does
Yeah, I
happen a
like
lot.
that.
People like my boyfriend when we first met, he barely drank, but I'll tell the story because he maybe drank 4 beers a month. But there was times he was telling me, he goes, oh, I'm going to meet my guy friends tonight. He goes, I don't want to drink because it might have been a 25-minute drive, let's say, but he just didn't want to drink. And they would give him a hard time. Oh, come on, just have one, just have one. And I said, Rick,
Sure.
the reason they do that is because they don't want to drink alone because they're already questioning their relationship with alcohol. So if you drink with them, then it's okay. And that happens a lot with people because you know what I mean? Like, I know when I was a drinker, if I'd go somewhere and they didn't drink, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you drinking? Like, come on, drink with me.
Yeah.
Like encouraging them here, you need one. You need a beer. Come on here. Let me give you a beer. Right. Because
Yeah.
then I wouldn't think there's anything wrong with me. So my relationships have changed, but it also brought me this new relationship because when I met this gentleman, I was at that point about a year and a half alcohol free. It was my birthday in October of 24. And I just had gone out by myself and I'd never did that in the past. I mean, I'm a social butterfly, but there's just something about me going out by myself that I've always been like, whoa, I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna look like a loser
Yeah.
or something, right? I
Yeah.
didn't care that night because I was so like I'm free. Like I found myself again through this whole transformation process. So when I went out that night and I met him, it was just amazing because we have conversations that are so deep and intense now that a lot of my friends I used to hang out with, I still love them all dearly. It's just they're caught up in the alcohol world. And so the conversations aren't as authentic and real because your conversations when you are consuming alcohol, they're not authentic to who you really are because your brain is being overtaken by a substance that has you either sometimes say stupid things or do stupid things. So some
Yeah.
things that I did when I was drinking, I would have never done if I would had didn't have alcohol in my system. So yeah, it's changed, but it's okay because the one thing I realized and recognized when I was on this healing journey, there's only one person that's going to be with me my entire life, and that's myself, right? And
Exactly.
I didn't love myself for a while. I felt very defeated. I felt like a loser, all these different things. And I remember as I'm going through the healing journey, I've done shadow work, I've done all sorts of things on understanding who I am and getting reconnected to little Jackie, the things I loved to do and used to be, and all these things, and getting my confidence back here and there. And I remember one day as I'm playing my Spotify, Whitney Houston came on with Greatest Love of All. And I sat here and
Oh.
I cried my eyes out because I realized I finally loved myself again. And that's what I want to give
Oh.
people is alcohol makes you not love yourself in reality. Because if you really, really loved yourself, you wouldn't consume as much alcohol. If I did, I'm not saying for everybody else, but I had lost who I was. So I numbed the voices in my head. And as I was drinking more and more, I could create any story in my head that I wanted because I could go over here if I wanted or do this or cry or, not face life head on. And now I face life head on, and I love it. It's amazing because I can work through things.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I could talk forever.
It is amazing, right? Oh, I'm so happy and proud of you.
Thank you.
My gosh.
Thank you.
So then what does a day in your life look like now emotionally and spiritually compared to before?
Oh, every day is gratitude. Every day is gratitude. Not just on the things of me being, however, 2 years alcohol free, but just reconnecting with who I am. Grateful for things through my life that, I, there's so many things we all do in life that bring us joy. And I've done a lot with Tony Robbins as well. I love Tony Robbins. I have a one-on-one coach through Tony Robbins. They
Yeah,
work.
he's
He's
amazing.
amazing. And, he talks about gratitude, anything, high school graduation, college graduation, these things in your life that you've done. So when I try to focus on step into those a couple times a day, just to remind myself emotionally, I have been through some really tough things since I quit drinking, not around drinking, just life shit happening. I'll give you a big
Yeah.
one, Tasha. This gentleman back in February of 2024 had reached out to me and we started chatting, and I had known him previously, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to date, but I thought, well, so we went out to dinner and it was fine. I told him my story. Everything was good. He asked me out on a date. And I said, okay. So it was like a week later and a couple days went by and I hadn't heard from him. And I thought, something might be weird. So I messaged him and said, hey, how's your week going? Oh, good, good, good. So we were supposed to go out. I believe it was Saturday night. By Friday, I'd never heard from him. By Saturday, nothing. Never heard from him.
Oh,
And I went through a lot of emotions. And I
sure.
remember crying. I called my girlfriend in Texas and I was like, duh. I was just like, I'm a loser. Like, what? And I was so like, what did I do? Why? Why would he do this to me? What's wrong with me? And so I had to, and I remember thinking, and I didn't even think about drinking alcohol, but the old Jackie probably would have popped a beer at 11 o'clock in the morning just to stop the noise and the frustration
Oh, yeah.
and the sadness and all this. But I remember sitting here in my kitchen and I probably put on music. I'm sure I did. And I remember I just cried and I allowed the feeling to just go through me. And then I got angry. And then I felt that emotion. And I was like, Kim, excuse my language, I was like,
Yeah.
fuck you. You know what? Nobody does this to me. And I got up and I cleaned my entire front room. I pulled the furniture. I dusted. I did all clean. I have 7 cats. At that point, I had 7. I'm cleaning everything. And I was like, okay. And then that night, then the feelings came back again. Oh my gosh, he never called me. And I thought, you know what? We in Pennsylvania, you would not experience this in Key Largo. We have a thing that's called Ice Fest. And so because it's so cold, they bring out these ice sculptures in front of all the different businesses where I live downtown. So that's where we were going to go. And I thought, I'm going by myself. I'm going. I'm not
Perfect.
going to let him ruin this. And I did. I walked around downtown. I had a great time by myself. And that was a huge thing for me to do because I thought, because I was so in tune with who I was becoming and reconnecting with Jackie, it was a very healing moment for me to walk downtown and go around and run into some of the businesses and talk to some of the owners that I knew. And I just was like, hey, and I got home and I was like, see, you're okay. You're fine. You're good. You got this. So that was a wonderful step for me to go through and to not run back to that nasty little monster alcohol that would have just ruined my whole night. And then I would have been drinking. I probably would have texted him and gone like, who the hell do you think you are, you son of a bitch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you celebrating those small wins, what would you do? Would you just positive affirmation or what how would you celebrate your small wins?
Oh, it all depends on my mood that day. They vary all the time. Sometimes I get in power moods and I dance or whatever, high five myself.
Uh-huh.
One of the things I did recently that I learned from Mel Robbins, because she's been phenomenal to listen to too. And that's the thing. I try to continually find different things to learn to take to my clients because they're not involved in all the different things or they don't hear from this person or Matthew McConaughey. I've done stuff with him too. But I
And her let them theory, huh?
to let them where she did one of her podcasts or one of her clips I saw on Instagram. Go in and high five yourself in the mirror. And I'll tell you, that's powerful for anybody to do because it's one thing for me to go, man, Jackie, you're awesome. You're doing great. But to look yourself in the eye and really look at yourself, it brought tears to my eyes because
I remember that episode. I did the exact same
I,
thing. I'm not even kidding.
I cried because I'm like, whoa, like I can tell
Yeah.
myself. great job. You're doing awesome. This, I mean, I've got all over my house. I have stuff, quotes I have up that I read and all that stuff. But to reconnect with yourself, that's one of the little things I'm doing is just step through that because step through it. It hurt. It didn't hurt. It just was, I mean, I cried because I'm so emotional. I cried, but I thought you're doing that for a reason because you need to reconnect more with yourself. And that's okay because
Yeah.
that's my job now is to make sure this whole being is in a good space. And when I'm not, hold myself and allow myself the grace and compassion to get through it.
Yeah, believe it or not, wrapping your arms around your body like this and
Yep.
hugging yourself and rocking will actually soothe your nervous system, believe it or not. It's just small things like that. Like, for instance, when I lost both of my parents, I had the hardest time looking in the mirror at myself because I saw them in me and I just couldn't do it. I literally could not do it. For about a year and a half, I couldn't even do it. And yesterday, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I told my boyfriend this. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm starting to look like my mom when she was 40. Like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So now because I'm doing the same thing, like really talking to yourself in the mirror and doing the high fives and girl, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're this, you're that, you know? And so it actually worked and it does. It gets lighter over time. So allow yourself to go through it, give yourself the grace at the end of it, but you will get past this. I promise you will get past this. But you have to practice that repetition. You have to keep going with it. You can't just do it one day and then be like, okay, I'm good. No, it's an everyday practice that you have to implement in your life.
Right.
You have to.
Yeah.
So, if someone is listening right now and silently struggling, what's the very first thing you'd want them to know?
You're not alone. You're not alone because I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'd wake up at 3 in the morning. I'd be dehydrated. I'd feel horrible, head pounding, thinking I was the only one going through it. And what I've learned, because I've met a lot of people who on this journey who have followed the same suit and we all had the same stories. And you're not alone and don't be ashamed because you can't put the bottle down. But I will tell you, if you find the right methodology, find the right person to work with you, you can change your relationship with alcohol. You are not forever going to be alcohol's bitch. I'm sorry to say that word like that, but that's what I felt like. I was alcohol's bitch, and I'm not anymore. And it is possible. You just because you have that addiction, number one, does not mean that is your identity, and it does not mean that you will always be that person.
Right.
Yeah.
So, from there, how do you know if it's actually an addiction or a habit?
Well, that's a great question that nobody's ever asked me. So really, in reality,
Because I remember speaking to a podcast guest a few weeks ago, and he was describing himself as being an alcoholic. And he would say, yeah, I began drinking on Fridays and Saturdays. And then that turned into Tuesday. And then that turned into Thursday. And then that turned into every single day of the week. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's no longer a pattern or a habit. You're a full-blown alcoholic and you need some help. Would that be fair to say?
well, there's gray area drinking. Addiction can still even be somebody who drinks on the weekends, who might binge drink every Friday, Saturday, and then maybe drink part of the day Sunday. So they still have that addiction, but it just might not be prevalent every day. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then what happens is because your body gets so adjusted to the alcohol, all of a sudden you might like he did, he started drinking a different day of the week. Well, then the habit turns into more of a habit, if that makes sense. So I mean, it's a slippery slope when it comes to alcohol. And to me, whether I mean, if the only time you would say that somebody probably does not have an addiction to it is if they drink once or twice a year. Maybe they go to a wedding or something along those lines. One of the things that I'm able to do with
sure.
somebody is they don't call it alcoholism or really alcoholic anymore. That term, it was created by the alcohol industry. In my humble opinion, that's what I believe to be 100% true because alcoholic blames the person. It doesn't blame the substance. So let me ask you a question, and I know I go all around sometimes, but I usually try to get back to where I was. But if somebody
I love
dies
it.
from heroin, who do they go after?
Yeah,
Who do they go after? If someone dies of
good
heroin,
question.
who do they go after? If someone dies from a heroin overdose, who do they go after?
The pharmaceutical, like
The dealer.
the drug itself or the person
Dealer.
itself?
If someone dies from
The
heroin,
dealer.
they look they want to find the dealer, right? If somebody dies of cirrhosis or alcohol poisoning, or they get in a car accident because they're drunk, who do they blame?
The
The
alcohol.
person. They're blaming
Oh,
the
the
person.
person. See,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying? Like they don't when
Okay.
somebody dies of cirrhosis, it's their fault. They couldn't help it. They were just they were an alcoholic, the word they like to use, instead of the fact of the substance is addictive. Does that make sense where I'm going with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying
Yeah,
that. Now
no,
I
it's
know.
okay. And that's the thing, like so when people look at so the medical field looks at it, it's called alcohol use disorder now. So it's a spectrum of questions that I ask somebody where they might be mild, moderate, or severe. And then they know where are you on this spectrum. And some people are going to be mild. They might only drink 2 or 3 times a month. And then you got those when you get to I was severe. When you answer 9 out of 11 questions with a yes, yeah, you're pretty much severe. And that's where I was.
Sure.
So it's then the awareness comes. So then you go, okay, well, okay. Now you're aware. Now you know what your problem is. Now it's your responsibility to fix it once you're aware of it. But it takes the person to be ready. Are you ready to confront this and help yourself through this? But there's a lot of tools out there that I have that can help people with that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that clarity. So, if you don't mind, as a child of an alcoholic, both parents,
Mhm.
can I get really personal with you
Mhm.
for just a second?
Absolutely.
Ask you a question.
Mhm.
I'm going to pretend that you're my mom or dad. Why was alcohol so much more important than me?
It's not that alcohol,
Why did you choose that over your kids?
right? It wasn't that alcohol was more important. It's that as we use alcohol to cope with life, it becomes hardwired into our brain. So 90% of what we do is based upon our subconscious mind. So what I mean by that is like if you're driving have you ever driven somewhere and you don't know how to get there? I mean, all of a sudden you got there and you're like, how the hell did I get here? Well, because your brain already knew. Our brain is like, I'll say Google, but I'm older, so for those who are older who are listening, it's kind of like the card catalog at the library that would have all
Uh-huh.
the information in there,
Yeah.
stored in there, and you would go to this. Oh, here's where I go to get that book. Our brain has so much information stored in there that we don't even have to think. If someone throws a ball at you now, the first time they threw a ball at you, it hit you. But then your subconscious, your brain went, wait, no, put your hand up. So you can catch a ball without even thinking about it now. So we did that with alcohol. So it's not that I feel like your parents or even myself chose alcohol over my children. It's just I hardwired it into my brain and it became so addictive and so it's just what I needed because I didn't know and like your parents, they didn't know that they didn't understand how addictive it was to them. And I'm so sorry that that alcohol took them over and I know I went through that
Yeah.
with my
I mean,
children. Yeah, it's
that's just the feeling that I feel.
mm,
Because I still struggle with those emotions.
mm,
Like, why, like, I'm so mad at you. Why did you do this to yourself and you left me here by myself?
right.
So I still struggle with that a lot.
Well,
So thank you
no, that's
for that
understandable. Yeah,
answer.
because it's like I just want you to know that your parents, when they took that first drop of alcohol, they didn't intend to become addicted to it. They didn't intend to make their daughter feel like she wasn't important, nor did I. Like, I had to have a conversation with my 3rd child recently, and I apologized, and I said, "I'm sorry that there'd be times you wanted to go somewhere, and I'd say, 'I'll drive you there, but I won't pick you up,' because I knew I'd be drinking, or maybe he ended up not
See?
going, and so because I felt that I needed alcohol every day to live. So, but the good news is I broke free from it. Unfortunately, your parents did not. They did not mean I guarantee you they're in heaven right now looking down going, "Why did I allow it to become my crutch, my handcuff, my this, my that?" because I'm going to tell you, Tasha, I do not believe any person that drinks alcohol for the first time ever intended it for them to take over their life and run their life for them.
I truly believe that.
Mm.
It's just hard to still cope with, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Whew,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's okay. It's okay because I love that you asked me that question coming from the perspective of life that you had and me living the life that I had. And I guarantee you, if they would have found the right tools, they would have chosen it. Just got so caught up in it and didn't know how to break free. And I'll tell you, I mean, a very dear friend of mine lost her husband on Christmas because of cirrhosis of the liver. And 2 weeks before he died, his first grandbaby was born. And
Oh,
it's definitely like did not, when you're that addicted to it, you just don't believe you can ever get away from it. And because of the way that I feel like the way they talk about it, like if you're addicted, it's your fault. There's nothing else you can do. It's just going to be who you are, that most people don't know how to break free, or they might try different options. And because they haven't rewired their brain, it just controls them. And that's what I love. I got the control back and I get to change my future. And I really want to help other people change their futures because there's a whole different world on the other side when you don't let alcohol control you. And it's a beautiful world to live
yeah,
in. Yeah.
I agree. And I can see that from your standpoint. Thank you for sharing that. So then let me ask you, what legacy do you hope that your story leaves behind for your clients, for your family, and for the woman that you used to be?
I think the biggest thing is for the woman I used to be and to the woman I am now. The woman I used to be, you were just doing what you thought you needed to do to kind of get through life at that time. And I look back at Jackie when she was in that position, scared. And as I started on this journey, I didn't know where I would end up or what anything was going to be, but or how I'd be or what my life would be like. And I mean, I'll tell you guys, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I have more fun now than I ever have. I still go out to dancing. I still go out to clubs, you know what I mean? Well, not really clubs. I live in little Podunk, Pennsylvania, but we don't have great clubs. But I go out and hear bands play and I dance and I have a great time and I'll drink an NA beer or water or I wake up with clarity. I can think things through now. And my legacy is for really number one for my kids to learn from me so they don't end up the way I did because it is so addictive and I don't want them to look back and think, why didn't I pay attention to what my mom was doing? Because I said to my youngest, who's 21, he's in college, and I said to my boy Nevin, I said, "Hey, do you think $100,000 is a lot of money?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, well, "I'm going to tell you right now, by the time you're 50, probably 50% of your friends will have spent that money on alcohol, on a substance that does absolutely nothing for them, except give them what they think is a good time." So I want to be able to help empower people to break the myths and beliefs that they have around alcohol, meaning I have to drink to have fun. I have to drink to relax. I have to drink. There's all these things that we are programmed to believe that alcohol does for us when in reality, we can do all of those things without a substance that comes in that has us do things we don't want to do, commit to things we don't want to say, or, become or get ill and have cancer or cirrhosis or I mean my whole body has completely changed. It's amazing. I feel like so much better. My skin changed, my eyes are brighter and the biggest thing though, I think the biggest thing, Tasha, that is the calmness and the peace I have because but people don't
Yes.
recognize is you might not have you might be the next day after drinking and you might not really feel hungover, but your body is still working very, very hard to metabolize and get that alcohol out of your system. And then you add it again that day. And so this goes on for cycle after day after day after day after day. So as I got rid of my drinking and stuff that would come up that would be pretty intense, I was calm through it. I didn't overreact. I just was like, okay. I'd have a conversation with somebody instead of screaming at them because my insides were just trying to, my poor body, what I did to it. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
Right. No, I love that. I absolutely love that. And Jacki, I am so, from the bottom of my heart, as a child from an alcoholic parents, I am so proud of you. Like, I wish I could have them here today and still be able to try to fix them. But then again, I wish, I'm glad that they're there. But I'm just so proud of the woman that you've become. And I know that your kids are extremely proud of you, and they're so, so damn lucky, so damn lucky to have you,
Thank
because I lost mine at 55 and 60. They were super young,
Super young. Yeah,
super young. They had a whole life ahead of them.
exactly. And that's
So they got robbed. The family got robbed. Everybody gets robbed over what? Over their addiction.
their
So I just, it's not fair.
no, it's not.
But I commend you for taking those steps and breaking free from those chains. I really do.
Thank you.
What a powerful reminder that it's never too late to choose freedom. Jacki's story is one of courage, clarity, and transformation. And her journey shows us that even in the darkest moments, a new path can emerge. If you're someone who's struggling in silence, or if alcohol has become a quiet companion, and you're ready to release, let this episode be your turning point. Freedom isn't just possible, it's waiting for you. To connect with Jacki and learn more about her coaching, visit her online or follow her journey. You'll find a guide who's walked the road and now walks beside others with compassion and strength. Until next time, keep choosing truth, keep choosing healing, and remember, your comeback is always stronger than your setback. I want to thank everybody for watching. Until next time, have a blessed day. Thanks again, Jacki, for being here. Take care. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
For more information on where to find me, please visit deepwavescoaching.com and on my Facebook and Instagram page at Deep Waves Life Coaching. For more information on where to find Jacki, please visit her website at coachingbyjacki.com and on her Facebook page, Coaching by Jacki, along with her personal Instagram and Facebook page at Jacki Fleniken. You can also join her private community, Sober Guides to Freedom, which is a safe space for encouragement, tools, and transformation. Thanks for watching.